right, Jess.
I see you're in stripes today.
Yep, I'm flipping the script today.
A little spicy for you.
Yeah, I'm doing patterns, no face hair.
Yeah, all right. We have two changes.
Two changes.
Yeah, I love those things. Remember growing up, there would be like two images and you have to say what's different from one to the other.
Yeah. I mean, when I shave, it's not often. And so it
Right.
it makes a big difference. It takes hours off of my appearance. I look hours younger.
I was
Uh,
younger than you did last week.
yeah, and it's a lot of people comment on it. Like, wow, you look like a totally different person.
You do look like a
That's why I
different.
like to wait a long time so people get used to it and then it feels like a bigger change.
It's not just laziness.
Yeah, I think the stripes have more to do with my laundry
Your
cycle.
laundry
Then,
cycle, right?
yeah,
Where are you in the laundry cycle?
all right,
Yes.
exactly.
Well, hello, everyone. We're happy to be back with you. I think this is episode 6.
It
Mm-hmm.
is. It absolutely is.
We're getting a lot of happy feedback from people. You're glad to hear that we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Apple Music, as well as YouTube. So we're glad you're happy.
Yeah, we're happy you're
Yeah,
happy.
we're happy you're happy. We have some announcements before we get into our question. So Dave
Mm,
and I have three speaking events coming up, August, September, and October. So August 21st, that weekend, we'll be in Denver at the Mile High Love Fest. And it's a conference. We'll be presenting on transforming the shame triangle together. I think that's all we have for that one, but there's going to be tons of great speakers and events the whole weekend. Then September 19th, that weekend, we're going to be in Portland for Polytopia. For that weekend, we're doing a bunch. We're doing Transforming the Shame Triangle talk. I'm doing Transforming Primal Panic. And then we're doing an Ask Jess and Dave live segment. And then in October, we're going to be at Esalen in Big Sur, California, Esalen Institute for a week. Let me look at the dates, October 12th through 16th. So it's a Monday through Friday. And that is a Transforming the Shame Triangle immersive in person in such a beautiful place on the planet. Yeah, week-long retreat.
yeah, it's really a special place.
Yeah, I haven't been to Esalen, but I love Big Sur. It's one of my favorite places.
Yeah. Yeah, Esalen, I've been there and it's pretty amazing. So if you're
Yeah.
wanting to come and do some impersonal transforming your shame triangle work with us,
Impersonal. In
impersonal,
person, quite
impersonal,
personal.
very
Yeah.
personal, but it's a spectacular environment to be in. Very supportive, perfect for this kind of work. So we'd love to see you there
Yes,
if
whether
you can
it's
make it happen.
Denver, Portland, California. Yeah, we'd love to see people.
Yeah.
Okay. You ready for our question?
Yeah, it's a long one, isn't it? It's kind of
It's
a
kind of a
big
case
one.
study today,
That's
so
right.
which is nice. It gets a bit more specific. Yeah, I've got like a page to read for everyone. So it's a question and then more context, which I think the added context is great because often when we're answering the questions, we always wish we had more context. So if you want to send in your case study, that's also an option with your questions. Okay. How do couples navigate an ENM or polyamorous transition when one partner is thriving in exploration and the other has little opportunity to do the same? How can the partner with more opportunities continue exploring without feeling responsible for fixing the imbalance, managing their partner's emotions, or falling into people pleasing tendencies while still remaining compassionate and supportive? And how can the partner with fewer opportunities determine whether E&M truly works for them when they haven't yet had much chance to experience it themselves? So we've got, three questions here basically, and the case study is more added context. So our sense is this is a female asking this question, and she's saying, "My husband and I have been together for 17 years and are relatively new to ethical non-monogamy. I was the one who initiated opening our relationship. Looking back, I feel like non monogamy has always felt natural to me. My husband, on the other hand, is more naturally monogamous. He's exploring this lifestyle because he loves me and wants to make space for something that's important to me, and because he also sees many of the benefits it has brought to both of us and our relationship. One of our biggest challenges is that our experiences are very different. I have opportunities to meet and explore connections, while he has had very few and often none. As a result, he struggles with feeling unable to fully evaluate whether this lifestyle works for him because he hasn't had the same opportunities to experience it firsthand. He also tends to compare potential connections to what we have built together over 17 years, which can make it difficult for him to feel excited about someone new. He has met with one person he enjoyed talking with and genuinely liked, but ultimately found himself thinking he'd rather spend time with me. In this case, this led to a promising connection that ended despite their conversations being fun and engaging. As a result, I often feel torn between my desire to explore more meaningful connections and my concern for how lonely, discouraged, or left behind he may feel. We make a conscious effort to connect before and after I spend time with others, but it can still be difficult for him. How can couples navigate this kind of asymmetry when one partner may be naturally more inclined toward non-monogamy while the other is still trying to determine whether it's truly a fit for them? All right.
Lots of context.
Lots of context, lots of good points. Lots of like, this is very familiar to me. I don't know if it is for you.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, it actually recapitulates the dynamic that we had when we first opened up. This is actually, there's some similar
Oh,
dynamics.
that's true. Yeah, there are some parallels here as well. So we can speak from both perspectives. Okay, so where do you want to begin?
I
What
want
stood
to,
out to you? Yeah.
yeah, I want to start with the fact that I don't think the asymmetry is a problem to resolve. It's
Yeah.
really the topology of the terrain that they're traversing right now. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's about trying to make those things more or less equivalent or equal, but actually really leaning into the differences of their respective experiences. And part of that difference is hearkening to the distinction that you made, I think first in Polysecure, between poly as or ENM as lifestyle versus orientation.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I think even in like, you know, seasoned polyamorous partners who both feel even that this is their orientation, they really are, everyone's on board. There still is usually asymmetry. So, like, the relationship math is usually rarely equal.
Hmm.
So, I think you're right. That's not necessarily a problem. It's just something to keep managing ongoingly because it's usually always going to go up and down. So, great. Each of you has one or two other partners, and then there's a breakup, and someone is doesn't have any other partners for a while.
Yeah, it's
How?
usually,
Oh,
go ahead.
yes. So just normalizing asymmetry is a part of this. But there's two things here. There's when a male female partners open up, it is very, very common that women have a lot more prospects than a married man does. It's very different than a single monogamous man or just a single man looking for partners.
Yeah.
And that imbalance is stark. People are shocked, right? And often, though, women, they might have more options, but there's a lot more to sort through that isn't necessarily people they want to date.
Yeah. Can we talk a
Yeah.
little bit about why that difference is? Why are there less? Because that's definitely what we encountered, right? You
Yeah.
had an amazing array of prospects right out of the box from almost from day one.
Right.
Whereas for me, it was a slow burn, right? It really took time to start cultivating networks of opportunities. It wasn't
Right.
just right out of the box. And so I was not expecting that. That was shocking.
Yeah.
And so there was some naivete or just lack of kind of research in sort of what to expect. So I'd like to contextualize that. Why is it that way?
Yeah. I think one of the reasons is if you're dating on the apps, let's say,
Because that's where most people are starting, is they're
that's where
starting through
most people
apps.
are starting as apps. And we can talk about the different ways in a few minutes. But yeah, if you're starting on apps as a female, you're going to get flooded with tons of prospects that aren't necessarily people that you actually want to date because people are just swiping and liking and not even reading profiles. So it can be quite overwhelming for a female.
Right. And
Also,
so
there's, oh,
some of those details, though, is like why are women so inundated with potential prospects is because you've got a lot of guys out there looking at a woman who's saying that she's in an open relationship or doing
right,
some form of polyamory is really attractive because it seems like, oh, there's potentially non-committal sex or
exactly.
casual opportunities with less commitment and yeah, it's not the same on the other side of the fence.
Right, exactly. And a married woman looking to date people, which reads as just wanting to have sex, even if it's not,
Right.
is appealing to a lot of people compared to a married man is not as appealing to if we're talking about male-female dynamics here, which this couple is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that was the first guy that I was with when we opened up. He had that prejudice, right? Where I was like, no, I'm looking for like a relationship and connection. He's like, oh, I kind of thought you were, even though my profile was very clear in what I was actually looking for. And when we met, we had really good connection. He was like, oh, you're really wanting to connect. And I was like, yeah, where did you miss that? And everything that I've said and how I show up. But just the fact of being married, and then it did take a little more time, a few weeks now, to find someone who was like also married, wanted a secondary type of relationship at that time. Yes. I mean, so often what I tell clients in this situation is just hang in there because what I see is it takes longer for men, but they get there.
Right.
They
And
do find like, and I've seen it sometimes it unfortunately takes 9 months to a year, but then I'm like, I see it again and again is you will find someone eventually that you do find chemistry and connection with. They do light you up. You are attracted to them, and they're available in a structure that works for your structure.
yeah, and this is where it comes to, again, I was starting to kind of foreshadow with the question of networking. Like,
Yeah.
there's a real difference between sort of casting your seeds to the wind with apps versus methodically building networks of people who are actually embedded in the culture
Yeah.
of ENM. And
Right.
that's only where I started to get traction was I started to make connections with people through meetups, through really pursuing an exploration, a sincere exploration of the culture itself. Who are
Yes.
the people that are doing it in a way that actually feels integral? Right. And then meeting people through those connection points. And so it's really about building a community of people who know what they're doing, take it seriously, and have more depth to their exploration than just dating in the apps. So potentially that's where this couple is finding themselves, is this guy's doing the cursory exploration and it's not going to bear fruit, and that can be really jarring when he's seeing, right, his partner just have all this opportunity.
Right. So with the apps though, I there have been times where I help coach clients, male clients through their actual profile because they're like, I'm not getting any traction. No one's doing this. I'm like, show me your profile. And it's
Yeah.
it's pretty it's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's
It's
another good
like
point.
right, like and to know it's not a criticism as much as just like, right, if this person's been married 17 years, you don't know how to necessarily make a dating profile. You're not maybe enthusiastic about putting yourself out there. You probably don't know fully even what you're looking for because you're not sure. So getting support from another person that really adores you, it doesn't have to be your wife, but a friend who could like see you and help you create a profile. Pictures do really matter, and a lot of men don't necessarily, a lot of humans actually don't know how to, you know, they either overdo it where it's like you don't even that looks amazing, but it doesn't look like you, or they underdo it where it's like these aren't the best moments of you.
Yeah, it could
You know,
totally be
you
a
have,
business. I mean, just
yeah.
helping
I
men
think there
do
is a
online
business.
profiles, like that's got
Yeah.
to be a thing.
Yeah, so helping, is your profile a good representation of who you are and what you want? And sometimes people need coaching on just how to communicate, what to say, how to talk through the app. So there's that piece. Like your app experience can get better. And then what you're saying, I think, is most important is meet people in person. Find poly meetups, find events, talks, groups, go to conferences, even if they're in different cities. I mean, the first time I went to a conference, it was like, are you kidding? There's 200 people here that I don't have to explain myself to. Like, we all get it, even if we're doing it differently.
Yeah.
Was such an incredible, normalizing, affirming experience. And inevitably, and I can hold back, like I can kind of lean back sometimes in social events. There's still connections that are made. Even if they're friends, that helps, right? So,
Yeah, and potentially the intention needs to be different out of the box for
yeah,
the guy in this situation where it's not about having an equivalent or even equivalent connections or
yeah,
relationships, but actually learning. This is a
yeah,
phase actually where you're learning about the terrain that you're entering into. What are other people's experiences? And that's something you can be upfront about and transparent when you're meeting people, right? I'm not
yeah,
necessarily looking to forge deep connections yet. I'm really just wanting to meet people and hear about what it's like for them, people that have been in the journey for a minute. And so that can be a way of just softening the transition where the pressure doesn't feel so intense or the
yeah,
expectations can be softened to the point where it's just you're trying to learn, and that's a
yeah,
different intention than trying to forge connections that then you're comparing to a 17-year marriage, which is
right.
impossible.
It's incomparable, right?
Right.
So, right. I think watching that for the husband in this, right, you're not trying to replace your wife, or you're not looking for an equivalent connection per se. But as much as you love your wife probably doesn't meet every single need and interest that you have. So it might be nice to go, are there certain interests that you and your wife don't necessarily share that it would be really cool to share with somebody else?
Yeah.
And
And
that can be like a trailhead to find someone that shares that interest with you. Go ahead.
yeah, but I think in that, and it might be down the road for this person in particular, given the particulars of their situation, but even sexual needs or desires. Like,
Right.
are there ways to explore your own just passion
Yeah.
that lie outside of the purview of what's been accessible in the marriage? That's a really
Yeah.
juicy and fruitful realm of exploration for a lot of people, is again an extension of this question of are there needs, are there interests, are there wants that just probably weren't going to be a good match with your wife that can be satisfied outside of that context. That's
Yeah.
powerful.
And that opens up another area of potential connections is sexological body workers, sex workers, people who are doing kind of erotic coaching or kink coaching that you can have sessions and experiences with people in that context that maybe wasn't allowed or available or even something you imagine possible as a monogamous partnership, but now is. And I know so many men that through the opening up have said, oh, well, I actually want to have this like tantric coaching experience that is probably going to get, erotic with the coach um, that just wasn't available before. And it's been really transformative for them. So, yeah, that's another way as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay,
So let's shift
let's get,
gears in terms of
yeah, yeah,
emphasis, and I want to talk about, this woman's conundrum of
exactly.
how to stay caring and attuned without clicking over to self-sacrificing.
Right. And it is a balance. And so, most likely, what this partnership is going through, which is with many partnerships, like what we write about in Polywise, is you open up and it exposes codependent enmesh dynamics in the partnership. That maybe there wasn't full differentiation when monogamous, and the poly is forcing a form of differentiation that wasn't there. And that in and of itself is hard, right? That differentiating, even if it's just the two of you, is a really hard process for partners to go through.
Yeah, so we can plug the book, even though it's
Yeah.
shameless self-promotion. This is our format, so we can get away with it. But
Right.
I
We
think,
have a whole chapter on it, right?
yeah, I think
Yeah.
reading, if you haven't, for this person in particular, but for anyone else who hasn't looked at Polywise and actually explored this concept of differentiation
Yeah.
and the way that ENM or polyamory forces you into this phase of relationship development, it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
And it's something that can really give you a conceptual framework for understanding the challenges that you're facing. Why
Right.
do these things feel so sticky or so hard?
Yeah. So for her, it sounds like what she's doing is great. She's giving before and after care. If she's on, a date or a connection, keep doing that. Keep being loving and compassionate and considerate. Absolutely. And explore the ways you might dip into this overfunctioning, wanting to be responsible or caretaking your partner. So be a support, which is different than going into caretaking or being responsible for his feelings.
Yeah, one question internally could be is this really about attuning emotionally to your partner and trying to help them through something hard versus I have to do this to feel okay about what I'm doing?
Right, exactly. And I think that is sort of the gymnastics a lot of people in her position feel is like, it's a lot to go on a date and I'm excited, but now I have to like kind of not fully show how excited I am because he might feel bad. And then I have to make sure he's okay. And, there's like all of this dancing and juggling that's going on.
Right. And this is where the question of authenticity really gets interesting.
Yeah. Right. So usually there needs to be more coming back to self and center work. And again, that being supportive versus the over functioning and taking care of. Now, is is her husband moping, guilt tripping, holding her responsible for his feelings, right? That can be difficult when someone is doing that you love. It's hard to disentangle from that as well. Or is he holding his center and saying, yeah, I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling lonely, and he's taking care of himself, or he's, even if it's turning towards friendships, family, is he getting coaching or therapy? So he most likely needs other places outside of the wife to be processing his own experience. That's crucial in this. Yeah.
Really for both of them.
Yeah.
And that's something new, and that's something that is in alignment with what we're talking about in terms of the differentiation. That's a huge expectation shift for the
Yeah.
nervous system, for the attachment system. This person with whom you've probably shared the most intimate details, the most vulnerability, now becomes someone with whom one of your most vulnerable, sometimes soul-wrenching explorations is no longer available to be the safe person to process some of this material with. That's so shocking. That's so intense.
It is, that's a hard part of the differentiation. Like some of
Yeah.
the differentiation is really needed and necessary, right? Is we can have different feelings and each be okay. Or one of us isn't over functioning and the other under functioning. But versus like, I remember going on a date and having a great experience and feeling celebratory and coming home, and I can't really be as celebratory yet with you because it's going to be too hard if I'm fully in. Whereas every other time in our relationship, if there was something to come home and be excited, you know, we could high five together about it. We would process it. We would, yeah,
Totally. And then there's the
yeah.
guilt for me of wanting to be able to be that person for you, but
Not
emotionally,
feeling
I
like, yeah,
authentically can't because my capacity isn't there.
yeah,
And on the flip side, I'm attuned or used to getting attunement from you when I'm struggling with something, and now I'm having to learn how to go to other people to process my struggle.
right. Which
Right.
can leave you feeling abandoned in air quotes, right? When that's not actually abandonment, but right, I'm not the go-to person for some of these things anymore.
That was massive. That was such an intense
That was
threshold
hard,
to
yeah.
cross. Like that,
Yeah.
that was one of the single hardest things to come to terms with.
Yeah.
Was having to start outsourcing some of
Yeah.
the attachment support in a
Yeah.
way that I just didn't see coming.
Yeah. Ultimately, it usually leads to much more health and actual intimacy down the road, but the transition of it can be really clunky.
Right. Once
Let
you
me
make
just,
it through, it can take some of the pressure off the actual
right,
connection and you
right.
don't feel responsible. And that's where some of the lifting of the sort of the smoke of codependence comes, right? You're like,
Right.
oh, this person doesn't and shouldn't be trying to meet all my needs emotionally. That's revolutionary, but you do have to get through this gauntlet of
Yeah.
transition first to get there.
Right. And she did name people pleasing in this, so that, in our framework, is a survival strategy. It's a learned strategy. It's usually rooted in childhood experiences and traumas. It's rooted in having an inner critic and parts that feel shame. And so then we try to escape. It's an escaper part that's going into overfunctioning and people pleasing. It's
Hmm.
also a nervous system response to difficult past trauma to go into that appease, nervous system state. So that's revealing for her. Yeah, that's your end of this work that's getting exposed.
Right. And what is
Yeah.
that connected to? What is that protecting her from? Is that protecting her from being with her husband's disappointment, being with her
Right.
husband's fear, being with, whatever form of her husband's emotional discomfort,
Yeah.
feeling responsible for that.
Right. And a lot of times in relationship, one person becomes the surrogate. So the people pleasing or over functioning partner, it's like, oh, I'm scaffolding your development. And if I stop doing that, then there's a big gap in your development now that needs to get filled in, not by me anymore, but actually by you. And that can be really hard because now we have a discrepancy in capacity. Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah,
we're
that's very,
feeling you. We know this is not easy by any means. I'm going to just scrim back, scroll and skim.
yeah,
That's a good
nice.
example of
Scrim.
how scrim, new word, everyone,
That's
wordsmith,
efficient.
scrim back. Anything that's jumping out at you. I just want to affirm that he does need more experience. That is very legitimate, but it doesn't have to be like a fight or a problem. To me, it's just a fact. Like, of course, you can't say you love a food if you've never tasted it. And of course, you can't say you love that place to go visit and vacation if you haven't gone there, right? And even you can't say, I love this country to visit if maybe you've only been to one place in that country. So he does need more experience. And often, when people in his position get more experience, they have a lot more clarity of maybe this could work, maybe I would like this, or maybe it's just, it isn't for me.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
being clear about the phase of the transition, and right now the
Yeah.
question is not whether or not it works. The
Yeah.
question is actually probably should be something more like, what actually is this?
Yes,
What's
exactly.
the real scope of this
Yeah.
universe, this subculture? Because it's vast. It's
Yeah.
it's huge.
Yes. So there's another thing that I'm wondering about that I tell a lot of my clients is don't manage your partner's poly. There can be a tendency for one person to want to, oh, I'm going to help you find dates. I'm going to be your wing person. I'm going to help you find the meetups. And it's like, because they want you to have the experiences so that you can then feel like you are okay in the freedoms or opportunities you have. And that's very nice. And sometimes, of course, help a person out if they need it. But often that doesn't, like, they need to become responsible for their own non-monogamous experience. And that's really an important step in this too. Yeah.
Yeah. I think too, in terms of thinking about giving more definition or talking points for this couple when they're balancing the asymmetry is part of the asymmetry in its root is the difference of needs,
Yeah.
right? And so we've
Yeah.
talked a little bit about, right, what are needs that can be met outside of the context of the original partnership, but what are some of the core needs that are alive for each of these two people? And it sounds like there's a difference.
Yeah.
Right. And so for the woman, it sounds like the wife, it's going to be more about exploration, freedom, autonomy. And for the husband, it's going to be more about security. It's going to be about safety, consistency within the connection with his wife, and then how to build resilience around uncertainty and discomfort.
Yeah.
So thinking about just giving a framework for how you talk about the differences in needs
Yeah.
and not feel like those are competing, but that the strategies for meeting those needs are very different and that
Yeah.
you're not trying to make your needs the same.
Right. Exactly.
So creating space for caring for those needs in different ways,
Yeah.
not presenting the different needs as, well, I need this, well, I need this. And so they cancel each other out or eclipse one another.
Yeah. I don't get the sense that this is happening here, but what I see often in this dynamic is the person with more opportunities. It's like they're going out 4 times a week, or there's just a higher number of dates or partners that they're engaging with, that sometimes slowing that down or reducing the numbers does really help the partner that doesn't have as many opportunities. So I'm not saying give up relationships that are already existing, but sometimes when you go, your partner goes, yeah, if you went out 2 or 3 nights a week, that would feel much more manageable for right now than 4 or 5 times a week. Or if you had two connections you were cultivating, not five, like sometimes that does matter to just go a bit slower can help. And getting really clear what the marriage needs to feel like it's getting enough. I do get the sense they're doing that actually, but often this is something that comes up is people have never talked about how many nights a week do we need, or how many date experiences or intentional quality time chunks, do we need within a week to feel like we're getting enough. So that, yeah, if you're turning away towards us a few times a week, it's manageable. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And they might have a situation where it's a mono-poly pairing. I don't think they know that yet. But I also think framing this as an experiment helps. You're in the experiment of it, and give it a year, give it and keep reevaluating along the way, instead of this is forever how it is and that's it, deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Framing it as a transition. This is
Yeah.
a very, yeah, it's not something, this is not the place that you judge what poly is or what ENM can be. Like this is such a different place than where you'll end up if you stay in this journey. And so I
Yeah.
think that's something important is people are always sort of, is this what it is? This
Yeah.
sucks. This is awful. I don't want to be in this for the rest of my life. And it can
Yeah.
be really difficult to pull yourself out, distance, get some distance or perspective when things, especially for your attachment system, feel so triggered so hard.
Yeah. It sounds like in this case, he is seeing the benefits that it has brought to both of them and the relationship, and he does want to be in support of her. So that's definitely a win. That's not always the case. And when that's
Yeah.
not the case, that makes this even harder, sometimes impossible, right?
Yeah, I'd
When
be so
someone
curious.
doesn't have the benefits. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what those benefits are, and it's potentially important to talk about those when you're talking about struggling. Like, why are we doing this in moments where
Yeah.
it feels like there's hopelessness or kind of a sense of questioning or disillusionment? I think returning to what are the benefits and explicitly articulating those, right? Are you remembering? Are you staying in touch with the fact that there are things that you're tracking that work and feel supportive?
Yeah, and some of the benefits a lot of couples say is, wow, we've never been so honest. And that kind of honesty and transparency about feelings, needs, desires, even past pains, like it becomes more invigorating. We feel closer. And then a lot of times couples open up and their sex life has a reboost or reboot, a resurgence. So there can be more emotional intimacy, there can be more sexual intimacy. There's often this like, oh, we're growing ourselves up because we're having to do certain pieces of personal work and relational work that we didn't have to do before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the real invitation for me is that kind
Yeah.
of up-leveling of our own emotional and relational intelligence. That's the thing that underneath the exploration, I think is really driving the value of it for me.
Yeah, it's sort of a gift and a challenge that there's so many things that get activated in non-monogamy that just monogamy doesn't activate or trigger in us, or certain wounds around fitting in or belonging that just don't come up in the same way when it's two partners, that we get to now work through those wounds, which is, of course, I'm biased as a therapist, but it's great.
Yeah, no, but I think there is something unique about a feature of change
Yeah.
where for change to happen, there has to be sort of a proportionate capacity to manage and tolerate certain kinds of emotional and physical discomfort.
Yeah.
You know, when I say physical, I'm talking about the nervous system's responses to pulls on the attachment system. But that's an interesting relationship, right? If we want change and hope for change, we have to be willing and ready to tolerate and experience and manage sometimes significant levels of discomfort.
Yeah. Yes.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, I hope this was helpful for them and for all of you listening. Anything else you want to add, Dave?
I don't think so. It's a good question. I like the details. So I just want to invite people to, as you said at the beginning of the conversation, give us that context. If you want to make it a
Yeah.
case study and make it really personal, do it. Lean into that. Obviously, we don't have to have your personal identifiers, but for us, it's fun to have the nuance and context.
Yeah. Okay. Send us your questions, send us your cases, and we look forward to answering them.
All right.
All
We'll see you
right.
next time, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.